Lemon Amiga present a Playguide video review. Sit back and enjoy the show.
Hi there, welcome to another Lemon Amiga Playguide and review. In this week's show, we'll be checking out Super Space Invaders, developed by the Kremlin and published by Mark in 1991. Of course, this being Space Invaders, it comes with an animated space intro. According to this, Super Space Invaders is a development of Toshihiro Nishikado, which is actually Tomohiro Nishikado, his original concept, which was released in 1979, and apparently this has been floating around in the future, so now that we get to take on the actual Space Invaders using a real ship. The game begins with a great theme, and you heard a remix of that theme in the intro. There is only one remix of this great theme on the internet, but there it is. Part of this theme actually remind me of cowboys in the Wild West. That's a great funky introduction, so let's just press that fire button, and instead of a range of options, we'll be given two options at the beginning of the game, of course normal game or advanced. And so for this, let's just go for the normal game, and also we get to choose the start level, so I'm going to choose the one which seems like it looks like it's the easiest, and that's the purple one. So let's press fire. Now with special weapon A selected, let's check this game out. In Super Space Invaders, we get to take on a huge batch of invaders and also a few ships which will give us some power-ups, and this one gives us the familiar power-up of the original Space Invaders, and I think you can destroy these manually, but you can certainly get those destroyed by the invaders, and if you launch those into the invaders, they will blow up. bit like a Galaga game, the Space Invaders will appear in a pattern, and all you have to do is to memorise that pattern and all the safe spots, and then lay into that thing with our standard weapon, and you can see that our ship is a kind of a red three-pronged attack effort, and unfortunately you only get the single firepower until you upgrade, and in this game it's the upgrades which make a difference. Some of those carry over from level to level, some of them don't, and you'll have to get those by destroying the motherships, otherwise you'll have to manage with what you have available. Super Space Invaders 91 was released on a number of platforms, including the ZX Spectrum, the Commodore 64, the Amstrad CPC, the PC, the Sega Master System, and of course the usual variants from all the other systems. You can see a few of those on the screen, and they have done a valiant job with this. Then again, it's not a very hard game to convert onto a home platform. When we destroy a certain number of waves in each sector, we'll be rewarded with a bonus game, and that is the cattle mutilation stage, where we have to defend a number of cattle against the invaders who will steal them. And you'll be awarded bonuses at the end depending on how many of those cattle we have remaining. This is a faithful carryover from the arcade version, and this is almost identical to that. And most of the arcade features are in this game, except for the sidebars, which look pretty PD, but apart from that, the graphics in general look fine, and they are in 4:3 of course, because they are playing on our Amiga. This section particularly reminds me of a Jeff Minter game, and yes, this is quite short, it won't last forever, and of course we're down to 3 of our bovine friends now, so it won't take long before we get through it, and yes, there we go, 3 awards us a 15,000 bonus. And then we go back to that map screen and we choose a different level out of all the levels to play, so yet again, let's choose something which looks fairly easy, and for this one, let's go for the one which looks like it's got the Earth in it. On every stage you'll find new waves of enemies and new ways to tackle those enemies. You can see I've already wiped out this one already, so when that happens, unfortunately it's game over and you'll have to try again. We are given 3 continues at the start of every game and 3 lives, and so once all those lives are used up, then that's a continue, and we're also given 3 parts of shield boost as well, so that we can take 3 hits and we can even destroy the firepower if we get any shots on target. So you can see now we're back to 3 shields as we lose a life, and that means it's possible to get through these levels. Just like another of my Amiga favourite shoot-em-ups of all time, that's Deluxe Galaga. And Deluxe Galaga, well, you play it at random, you're never quite sure what you're going to get. And with this game you can choose a random way through the maze of levels, and you're not quite sure if the power-ups that you're going to get are going to make your life easier, or do absolutely relatively nothing at all. You can see as soon as the invaders touch the bottom of the screen, then that's life over, no matter how many shields you have remaining. But if you collide with those guys with the shields, then they will get destroyed. So sometimes you can tactically destroy enemies by colliding with them. Super Space Invaders was another game that fell into the Amiga power trap of controversy because this was originally awarded 51% when Amiga Power originally reviewed this, and Rich Pelly said it was boring and nothing like the arcade version, and yet on the very same page an alternative view by Amanda Cook gave this 85%, and she said the game's amazing and I'd recommend it to everybody. It's great, it's fun, it's 85%. And then when the reissue came along, Stuart Campbell reviewed the game and he gave this 14%, saying it's nothing like the arcade version, I hate it, therefore it's only worth 14%. And of course all the other magazines rated this highly, and the top award went to C Amiga, who gave this a Scream Star award and 85%. On the Amiga, we're battling a mothership, and I presume you have to keep those things on target, and some of the weapons don't help because it's highly protected with all the armour. But yes, we've managed to get a few shots on target, and that's the end of the level boss over with. So that means we get back to that map screen and we select another route, just like Outrun, through this game. I like the enemy variety, and it looks like we're facing more balls and eyeballs on this level, this technological background, and again I can't help feeling that the border surrounding everything is a little bit weak and a little bit public domain looking, and originally on the arcade it was a big tall screen with some numbers at the bottom of it, much like Hybris, but this is Demark we're talking about, and these guys do not program Hybris. But for a Demark game, I think this is probably the best thing they ever released because the graphics are great, the sound is great, I even like the voice speech sound effects, and of course the aliens are nice and big, and of course the bullets fire slower than ours, so it should be possible to shoot those out of the sky. On the way to levels, the power-ups become critical, and you can see this absolutely pathetic firepower that we've managed to get. It isn't very good, but on this particular level it gives us a break because the enemies scroll horizontally and they don't necessarily dive towards the bottom of that screen. But they do take a lot of hits, as you can see, so this is adding variety to the game. And I think Super Space Invaders adds a lot to the formula, and of course the formula was getting quite tired by the time it reached this stage, hence the magazine reviews in Amiga Power saying that this game should have gone out there with the dinosaurs. But anybody who enjoys Space Invaders and likes some random luck involved and some great meaty weapons and also some cattle mutilation, well, they will get a smile and some fun from this game. In the bonus level will get scored depending on how high the targets are when we shoot those down. So if it's a high target and it has a bovine creature involved, then we'll get bonus score. But usually I like to hit those things as soon as I can and don't worry about score too much, because if a cow gets picked up, there's a good chance you'll lose it, and there's a good chance you'll shoot the cow before you've managed to shoot the saucer. You may notice that when a saucer is locked onto the cows, it will run around like a mad cow, and that's how you can detect where to shoot next. And it looks like we've got through another bonus stage, so you know what that means. It's on to another area, and well, we don't get to select from the map in this case because the routes are selected for us. So with no lives remaining, that's game over, and now we see, well, it's game over. We get a game over on the screen, and that means it's a quick trip to that high score table, and that's a very nice picture of us blowing up in the vacuum of space. And so with this particular high score table, just like the arcade, it's a figure of 8 design, and why they have to do this with a high score table, I've no idea, but again, it makes it a little bit different, a little bit unique. You can see high score player 2 there. I've no idea if the joysticks are supposed to be swapped around, but player 2, in this case me, has got that particular high score, of which you can see there number 5, of which I've reached level 11. Not quite sure how many levels there are in the game, but there are quite a lot, and you can see all those on the map. I think there are at least 12 levels in the game. Unlike the arcade sequence, that bit is not very funny, of a guy hauling something through, and even the voice sound effects are missing on that part, so I can understand why some magazine reviewers said that this felt like a lame conversion, but for my money I don't think this is so bad. I think the sprites are particularly good, and as I say, I like the weapons, the music and the sound effects in general, and I think as a conversion they could have done a worse job, and definitely the Sega Master System version is an inferior version compared to this, and that would be worth maybe 14%. But in general, I'd say this is worth a little bit more. On the Amiga, even though we're playing in one player mode, you can see it says 2 up on the score, so I'm not quite sure why the 1 up score isn't totaling up. You can see we are now flying hopefully player 1 ship, which is a single hull ship, and that doesn't make it any easier to play the game, and I don't think there are any variations in the ships on offer. to give you a little history about this game is officially known as Super Space Invaders 91, even though it came out in 1990. Of course, it's a title original arcade machine. It was converted onto the Amiga, at least the coder was Paul Margrave, also known as Alien Hunter, and he began with F-16 Combat Pilot on the Amiga in 1989, moving on to The Spy Who Loved Me in 1990, and after this he went on to Rex for the Mark in 1992. Super Space Invaders was developed by the Kremlin, and you may remember the Kremlin from The Spy Who Loved Me, and apparently the Kremlin were one of DeMarc's in-house coding teams, and they bought in different bits of software, but in this case they developed this in-house, and the Kremlin was Paul Margrave, and as far as I'm concerned, Julian Vincent Myers also created the graphics and the music for this game, and he was known as the Judge. And Julian Vincent Myers also worked on Mid-29 Fulcrum, created the music for that, and also the music for RBI Baseball 2 on the Amiga in 1991, and also the music for Thunder Jaws, which was a James Bond ripoff. The German arcade original Super Space Invaders was actually known as Super Space Invader, and so instead of invaders invading the planet, now the emphasis moves on to us as the invader, and so in the German version we seem to have swapped around the emphasis onto the pilot, and that's not so bad, but Super Space Invader isn't actually Super Space Invaders, which we are playing at the moment, and that is, well, a one-letter difference in the title screen of the German version. I'm not sure why a frog is eating a burger on that particular screen, but regardless, let's choose something else. Let's choose one of the more famous screens from the game, and this is an orbital space station, and it reminds me of Elite Dangerous, apart from there is a wider variety of enemies in this game. And you can see that we are yet again flying the other ship. I'm not quite sure how the game chooses which ship we are flying, but you can see we've picked up a mega weapon, and even with this mega weapon it takes quite some hits to blow away those targets. Don't forget, this game can be played in 2-player mode, and that, I think, is an upgrade from the arcade original. Not quite sure, but I think the arcade can only play 1-player mode, and if that is true, then that's also an upgrade that we find on the Amiga version over the arcade. And so Stuart Campbell in this case must have been in a grumpy mood to review this, and must have wanted to be sacked, because there is nothing wrong with this game except for the graphics look a bit on the public domain side on the sides, but you can see the main effects, there's nothing wrong with those, and this, well, depending on how much it costs at the time, oh lord, look at this! Let's choose another level, and this time let's go for the fire, because this reminds me of other fire games that we've played and seen already, and this is not a vertical shoot 'em up, but it has certain characteristics, and you can see there's nothing wrong with the scrolling and everything. Well, in this particular case we're fighting snails and things which crawl out of the sea, mollusks, and it looks like bats, I'm not quite sure, and it's an orb that we have to shoot to get the weapons. So there are significant differences, unfortunately not in my gameplay, and that's yet another life over. That's our final continue used up, and so this was our last set of lives. I'm not quite sure if you gain any more lives at score checkpoints, but we have gained some score, over 220,000, and I wonder what the maximum score would be on a game like this. And there are some bits which I fear unfair, and I'm not quite sure the tips which we have to get through these, but you can see that just like the arcade, I suppose, all of these levels are supposed to be in there, so anybody who is familiar with the arcade might be able to deal with these attack patterns. And I guess I'm unfamiliar with the game because I've never even played it. This is played raw, I've never even seen this game before, and so this is the end of my very first try. For my money, even though this has randomness, it still doesn't beat Deluxe Galaga as a single screen shoot 'em up, and that game really is immense compared to this because I really should be on better firepower by now. Maybe this is an arcade perfect version, but I think they should have enhanced this game, or at least could have done just a little bit. So as we move on to pretty similar waves in the cattle mutilation section, we get to move on to those scores, and the lowest score went to Amiga Joker, who awarded this 49%. Next up we have Amiga Power, who originally gave this 51%, Amiga Computing gave it 70%, Dato Magazine gave it 73%, Amiga Action gave Super Space Invaders on the Amiga 77%, Generation 4 awarded this 80%, Amiga Format, the world's biggest selling and best selling and the most amazing magazine ever, gave this 83%, Joystick 21 awarded this 84%, and finally CO Amiga gave this a screen star and 85%. All of that mutilation means the average final score is just above 7 out of 10. And I don't think that's too bad because this isn't a bad game and it has a lot of going for it. And in 2-player mode, of course, this is amazing and a real battle. And it's a battle to get under sometimes those hard enemies, which I failed at again. And so for the final time, that's game over. We have now blown up and we are now a redundant corpse in space, and unlike Princess Leia, we cannot use the Force to get back home again, unless of course we press fire and start again. But in the meantime we can enter our feeble name and our lowest score into that high score table, and then hopefully that will get printed out for us, of which I probably have not improved since my previous score. So thank you once again for viewing another Lemon Amiga Playguide and review.